Hey guys, what is going on? Hope your week is off to a beautiful start. Time to break down Super Rugby round 6. I watched it all, so you don't have to. I can give you the too long didn't read version, and this is a good time to start paying attention to the competition because in my view, round 6 is kind of where the real contenders emerge. I started seeing a few different trends in the style of play this week, especially Blues Crusaders. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to take you through all the results, then we're going to look at the standings. So let's kick it off with Moana Pasifika versus the Chiefs. Man, this was a hell of a game. The Chiefs routed them in the first half. It was more than a point a minute. That combination of Damian McKenzie and Sean Stevenson was running wild. But it wasn't just backline brilliance. At the end of the day, Moana Pasifika were their own worst enemy. The basics, the schoolboy errors. They could not claim restarts cleanly. If you can't catch the ball on the restart, you're needlessly handing away possession. That's what Moana Pasifika did. And look, they're not a one-man team. They've got a great number 10, Pellegrini. His kicking game is very dangerous. That bloke named Miracle in the forward pack, he was toiling away manfully the entire game. They didn't have their captain, fantastic Artie Savia, so it was always going to be an uphill battle. But really, after seemingly having the game dead and buried at halftime, the Chiefs totally buttoned off. Look at that final score. Moana Pasifika threatened to come back and maybe even win it in the dying stages. It was just an onslaught of tries. Everything was clicking for them. What do you make of that? I think that the Chiefs just had this one in the bag at halftime. Look, the game was really over. When you've already hit 40 at halftime, it's natural to button off. So the Chiefs look very vulnerable. I mean, if they played like they did in the second half against the Crusaders or the Chiefs or the Waratahs, I mean, they would have lost that game. But I need to see a little bit more evidence that the Chiefs really are, like inconsistent. I feel like when they have to perform, they're doing it. When they're under pressure, they're playing 80-minute games. They weren't under pressure in this game. They simply weren't under pressure. Hey, if you're an All Black fan, you'll be happy to see Amoni Narawa playing well out there. He looks like a genuine playmaking option. I'm not saying he's going to play at 10 for the All Blacks, but in terms of Razor Robertson wanting those utility players and wanting outside backs who can not just finish but set up opportunities, man, Amoni Narawa was running around like a playmaker out there, breaking the line, then setting his guys up. I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on that this year in the All Blacks. Players that can not just get over the gain line, not just have clean breaks, but then convert those opportunities. That's why a guy like Rieko Ioane has been in question. Does he finish well? Does he set up his outsides? We'll talk about him in a minute when we break down the Blues game. But the All Black that I was most happy to see out there was Samisoni Takiaho. He came off the bench for the Chiefs, and he iced the game. He scored right at the end just to make it sure for the Chiefs. So, look, hitting 50 is great, but, man, leaking 35 points is not good. Chiefs fell asleep in the second half. I have a feeling they won't do that against superior opposition. They just got a little too cruisy and comfortable in the second half there, and they had a big lead, so they could afford to. Moving on to the Highlanders versus the Reds, though, let's give a golf clap to the Australian forwards. I think I'm going to put it on the thumbnail of this video. The Aussie forwards are back. I think it's the motivation of the Lions tour. Guys are wanting to put their hands up for that starting test jersey. Whatever it is, they're playing at a higher level than the New Zealand forwards right now. I think that's going to change going forward. I think that the All Blacks are going to lift as we get down to the business end of Super Rugby. But right now, there are a few guys like Scott Barrett, just a single one out, who are so far away from their best form. And meanwhile, the Aussies in the tight five that we saw wearing Wallabies jerseys last year, they're performing like they're already at the pointy end. And I want to single this game out, the Reds Highlanders, because the Highlanders have a good team. They were playing at home in Dunedin. They had that man, Tavatava Nawai, who has just been phenomenal for them this year. He's playing his way into an All Black jersey. But the Highlanders couldn't get home. And at the end of the day, it was their scrum that killed them. They were beaten up front. Listen, I go for the Kiwi teams. I got to call it how I see it, though. I got to at least aspire to objectivity on this channel. It was boys against men at scrum time. Look, you don't say that often in a Kiwi versus Aussie fixture. It's painful to say it, but the Reds were just all over the Highlanders pack. Wilson, the captain, was brilliant. Line breaks, bossing the breakdown, good in the set piece. So look, full credit. First win in 13 years in Dunedin. These Aussie forwards are not toothless right now. And in fact, they blew the Highlanders forward pack off the park in the second half. I don't want to mince my words. It was pretty rough. So good stuff from the Reds. They're very much contenders. I'm absolutely expecting them to be in the top 6 when it comes down to playoff time. Keep your eye on the Reds. They're probably my favorite Aussie team right now. Blues Crusaders, I'm not going to go over it all. Go to the Lives tab on my channel. I did a 40-minute breakdown of the game. I really appreciate those of you who showed up. I'm loving the numbers I'm seeing. Look, Super Rugby's never going to be as popular as All Blacks games or Springboks games, but I'm loving that we're building a community. You're engaging, you're commenting. That's going to hopefully grow and grow, and then by the time the All Blacks are playing, we're going to be in business. I'm hoping there'll be hundreds of you tuning in. But I really enjoyed breaking it down with you guys. But just to reiterate the top-line points, man, this game was never in doubt. I felt more doubt in the second half of Moana Pasifika versus the Chiefs than I did in the second half of Blues Crusaders. Because the Blues were just getting murdered at the breakdown. That simple. I've said this already, and you know this. You know this. If you're leaking as much ball as the Blues do, if your ball security is that bad, you are not going to be beating the Crusaders, Chiefs, Brumbies of this world. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. But it doesn't matter if you've got Mark Talay and Caleb Clark on the wings. Doesn't even matter if Bowden Barrett comes back. And he needs to, because Stephen Perifetta had a very rough day at the office. Behind a beaten pack and coming off injury himself. So absolutely going to give him some grace, give him some time to find form. But the point is, it doesn't matter how much X factor you have in the back line. You need better security at the ruck, and that's the Blues' Achilles heel this year. It's glaringly obvious. You don't need me to tell you that. Positive signs with their pick and go, though. Scored a couple of brutal physical pick and go tries in the second half. Finlay Christie came on for the Blues. He shored things up. I know some of you are not a big fan of him. I thought he had a terrific game. I thought he gave the Blues real assurance, guidance, a cool head, good decision-making. There's hope for the Blues, especially if you have Finlay Christie and Bowden Barrett at 9 and 10. There's hope because the backline is starting to click. They're creating opportunities. Rieko Ioane was getting outside his man all night. He looked more like a winger than a center, but he was beating his man. He was skinning people. They're not finishing, though. And part of that is pushing passes, knocking the ball on, or just not having that follow-through to the ruck and getting good, clean ruck ball like they did last year when they went all the way and won it. They're not doing that. So the Blues are not dead and buried, but it's a tough road from here, man. And the Crusaders, while not back to their best, are not even comparable to last year. They are so much better than last year. Now, admittedly, that was their worst season in a decade. Actually, it was probably their worst season ever. But they've dug themselves out of the hole super well. And how is that? I think they've lifted their D a lot. That was a change I saw this week. The intensity of the defense. I was starting to see that from the Crusaders. Big time. And it was reminding me of their championship runs of the past. You know, D wins championships. It's not always pretty. It's not always exciting. But that big D, not the kind of big D that you see on OnlyFans. I mean the big defense. Yeah, that gets you home when the games are tight. And just better ball security, better ruck cleanouts, better rolling maul, just the basics, you know. The Blues line out also self-imploded, whereas the Crusaders line out is looking pretty polished right now. just think there's better cohesion. And I'm enjoying what they're doing with the youngster Taha Kemera running the show at 10, even if his goal kicking isn't quite on point. But I think it's good with him starting. And James O'Connor, that wily wallaby coming off the bench, he showed his class. He had a beautiful chip kick to score a try late for the Crusaders. Loved his vision. Love his poise and composure. Think they're onto something down there in Titletown in Christchurch. Maybe it will be Titletown again this year. Chiefs and Crusaders are really standing out. Moving on to the last two games, I got a bit of egg on my face. I thought the Waratahs would go down to the Brumbies. And the reason for that is I felt the Tars hit the wall against the Reds. I felt that they were just all of a sudden in a funk, and it might take them a little while to recover. Well, full credit to the New South Welshmen. They recovered quickly. They snapped back to their best. Brumbies had a little bit of an off day. It was a tight game, but the Tars got home in Sydney. And again, from an Aussie perspective, some good muscular forward play. The basics of the rolling maul, the clean out were all looking good. So the Aussie forwards have lifted this year big time. Speaking of, damn, I also picked the Fijian Drua to get their first away win. Not to be. Force absolutely destroyed them. Donaldson, the first five, was running the show well, kicking his goals. But again, it all started up front, and you just felt that the Force were all over that Drua forward pack. You know, rolling mauls, clean line-out wins, pick and go, just smashing them up front. So, bad day at the office for the Drua, good win for the Force at home, and just a good weekend for the Aussie teams, frankly. That's probably the main takeaway, is that the Aussie teams are back. Super Rugby's more competitive in terms of the Australasian fixtures, if you want to call them that, the Kiwi-Aussie derbies. Yeah, I think they're motivated by this Lions tour, man. It's a big deal. It happens every 12 years. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Unless you're James O'Connor, he might do it twice in a lifetime. He's looking good enough for a spot on the Wallabies bench, I think. Aussies are feeling it, man. They're excited. Let's take a look at the standings here, guys. So the Chiefs and the Crusaders are at the top, as it should be. They're the clear standouts. And then you have 4 Aussie sides. So that data really underlines my opinion, my gut feel, what I'm seeing, that the Aussies are back with a vengeance. But keep your eye on the Hurricanes. The Highlanders, for me, they just don't have that finishing power. They're there or thereabouts, but I see more narrow losses for them ahead. When I look at the bottom half of the table, though, the Hurricanes catch my eye just because they got Tyrell Lomax back. They've got Asafo Amua back. They got Ruben Love back from injury and trending back to his best form. They've got Proctor coming in, Billy Proctor, who did play for the All Blacks last year. He's going to shore up their defense a little bit in the midfield, and also I think they're going to finish more opportunities because the Hurricanes are creating opportunities, and they're building like 20 phases at a time. They're recycling the ball super well, and Cam Roigard is getting in there like a terrier and just moving it on fast. Guy like Proctor is going to increase their finishing percentage, I believe. That's just my opinion. I'm a big fan of Proctor. I think he breaks the line, and then he knows how to connect with his outsides and finish it off. Right now, the Hurricanes are not finishing their opportunities, but they're creating them. So my prediction is the Canes might just sneak into the top 6. Not saying they're going to win it all. Not even saying they're going to get past the semis or the quarters. But I just think there could be a bit of movement there. I actually think the Force could be a little bit vulnerable. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be back to preview the next round of Super Rugby, and I'll put up a poll asking you which game you want me to live stream after next week. And if you do pop into the live chat, drop a comment, say hello. Really helps the YouTube algorithm push these videos out to more people. I love you guys. Be back for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now.